Okay. All right. Well, Hylke and Ben, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to talk with some of our parents of our high school ministry. If Hylke, I'd love to talk with you. You're to the right over there. So, Hylke, if you could talk with some of our parents real quick and just introduce yourself and introduce us a little bit to your church.
Yeah. So my name is Hylke Hilkema. I am the student ministries pastor at Trinity Church in Redlands. So we're just a little ways down the road from you guys. We're an EV Free Church, Evangelical Free Church of America, and as far as just kind of give you a gauge of size, we're kind of a medium-sized church. We probably run about like 1,500 on a weekend, just total attendance, and like our youth group, our high school ministry. We probably see about we'll probably see about 90 students there tonight. That's pretty, 80 to 90, pretty typical. And we're pretty white with some diversity. And as far as socioeconomically, we are on the white collar side of things. A little bit more of a professional crowd, but certainly not exclusively so. And hopefully growing in some diversity in that way also. Does that give you kind of?
That's good? Great. And then what about generationally? Like, do you guys just have all the generations?
Sure. Yeah. So our church has been in existence since late 70s, early 80s.
Awesome.
Actually, it was like 81 or something. And we're probably a little bit of an older church, but that's also definitely changing now. So we're very mixed, I would say, at this point. We've got a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, Hylke, I want to jump in and ask you a question. And then Ben, I know that you're a dad of a few students in the ministry, so I want to ask you a question next. But first, for you, Hylke, your church is unique because you used to have kind of a high school Sunday morning big program. That was kind of what you guys did. And then you guys decided to make a change a few years ago. So could you kind of walk us through that and maybe why did you guys decide to make that change?
Yeah. So actually growing up, when I was going I'm a church kid, went to high school youth group. We had a high school Sunday morning program, went to college and really had a hard time connecting to a big church, if you will. Actually went back to my high school pastor, told him about my experience, and he actually ended up canceling the high school program on Sunday mornings, and that was always in the back of my mind. So I came to this church about 12 years ago.
Wow.
Not as the high school pastor. I was serving in middle school, but always wanted to push towards canceling our high school program for Sunday mornings, or at least an alternative worship service.
Yeah.
And we made the move about 3 years ago. Yeah, it's been a while now.
Wow.
The third year, I think. Yeah. I think, and part of the move behind that was wanting to see our high school students integrate into the larger church, and that's capital C church.
Yeah.
Well beyond Trinity Church, into college, into adulthood.
Yeah.
And we felt it was age appropriate for them to take those steps to become part of the larger church.
Okay.
And it was very much time to make that move, in our opinion.
Okay. Awesome. And then Ben, I'd love to turn it to you. So you obviously are really involved in the student ministries, but you're also a parent of, I think, 2 students, right?
My daughter, Tessie, who's now a college freshman, but she was halfway through high school when I first made the change. Then my son, who's yet to hit high school, he's in 8th grade.
Okay.
And we're coming into high school next year, so he'll have the whole new format the whole time.
Awesome. Okay, so Ben, if you could just introduce yourself, and then I'd love to ask you the question, how did you initially feel about the changes, and how did your own kids respond?
Okay. Well, my name's Benny Reeves. I'm a teacher here at Redlands, and I've been at Trinity about 22 years.
Okay.
And actually, I think part of how we made the connection, my sister and brother-in-law, Scott and Becky Slamer, are part of your church, and their daughter, Sarah, is a freshman.
Yeah, she's become a real troublemaker in our ministry. So she's,
I can see.
You could probably see that.
Ethan, who's a 6th grader, also is in the younger part of the ministry there.
Yeah.
And kind of, I remember part of the part of the challenge to it.
Okay.
Having someone who was doing it one way. It's difficult for her in her mind to not have that connection point because it'd been there, school, middle school, first 2 years of high school. It's another time for everybody to connect.
Yeah.
So, and for her, like, she had a great small group experience. So she'd had some really good small group connections. So she had a strong connection to the group.
Okay.
Her only touch point was the large group time.
Yeah.
But it was a struggle at not having that extra, like, social, because the kids don't all go to the same school.
Sure.
And then even for her, we had one of the challenges you might face is she was involved in competitive sports, club sports. So Tuesdays weren't always available. It was kind of off and on.
Sure.
In one of her connection points. And so that was a bit of a struggle for her at certain times of year.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate that. Hylke, as you've kind of watched this unfold, and you guys are a number of years ahead of us, what success or benefits have you seen with high school students being in main worship and serving? I know that serving is like a big part of your guys' culture as well as it is at Purpose Church. And so what have been some benefits as you've watched it for a few years now? What's been the benefits of having students in worship and having them serving?
Yeah, I think that part of it's just ownership that I see within our high school ministry. They've always had ownership of but not necessarily of their church. And, they really are just as much church as I am, as a senior adult is. And that's demonstrated, like you said, they serve in our main worship service.
Right.
Ministry, but, they're greeters, they're ushers.
Sure.
They're teams. Like, it was very important to us that it's not just like, hey, you should go to like our worship service and you should come visit.
Totally.
No, it was also their worship service.
Totally.
And so they have they've skin in the game now.
Yeah.
And so that needed to be honored by the leadership as well. And so it was a two-way street, and it took us a little bit to get there. It didn't happen overnight.
Sure.
But that commitment to getting them dialed in and plugged in into the larger church ministry is very much a part of, I think, the success of it.
Wow.
And they actually all kind of commit to coming at the same service. We have 3 services. They go to our middle service, the 9:30 service. They sit together. They sit right up front.
Yeah.
That's up front. That's their section.
Cool.
They're seeing some of their peers lead worship.
Awesome.
So I mean, they're there, and this is their deal.
That's so great. That's so cool, man. How awesome. So inspiring. Thank you. So my question, I want to go back to you, Ben. As a parent, how have you seen this new change positively impact your faith conversation? So now that your students now that your kids that you're worshiping with them, and then you're seeing them serve, have there been any kind of cool faith conversations that you guys have been having at home? Or have you been, as you've seen them start to plug in a serve and as your son is about to step into that, what have you seen as a parent?
Well, part of it was, I think it made, my daughter had already been serving in children's ministry before that, but it made it a bigger part of her day because that part stayed in. She was doing it with friends from high school.
Awesome.
That she only saw at church, and now that became their big touch point. In addition, I think we were able to talk a lot about how important small group connection was for them. That was really and that's how I felt, and that's something we really were able to focus on that. And she was able to focus. So I felt like that was the key. And so it's been a big talk that we talked about doing that. And I feel like it helped her transition into college. She's going to San Diego State University. She transitioned right into a small group with crew, going into big church at a church. She connected right away, but she'd already been doing big church. That was what she did. She had small group. She had big church. So it was almost like adulting church.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what you do as an adult. You have a small group, you have a big church.
Yeah.
And so
wow, that's awesome.
we're able to kind of plug those things in high school even. And I was able to see it because you don't know when they go off to school.
Yeah.
Part of the reason